HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion, focusing on Category 5 Hurricane Irma based on the 11 o'clock advisory package from the National Hurricane Center. So let's take a look at Irma, and we're also going to watch Jose and Katia very closely, and I will take a look at those statistics in just a moment. First of all, with Irma, still a Category 5, really remarkable, moving to the west-northwest at 16, air pressure 916 millibars. And of course, those winds have maintained at 185 miles per hour for a long time now. This is setting records, and unfortunately, those records were part of it moving over populated areas of the islands of the Northeast Caribbean Sea. So a few things here in the public advisory. Again, you need to read this if you really want to get in-depth information on all of the details of the areas that could be impacted at the National Hurricane Center homepage, the public advisory. And you can also certainly read the discussion, and we're going to take a look at that too in just a moment. But a few things that I want to point out from the 11 o'clock public advisory. The heading of this has gained just a little bit, 290 degrees now, was 285 for most of the day, still at 16 miles per hour. The other thing I want to focus on here are the hazards affecting land and the wind radii. Hurricane force winds still 50 miles from the center, and the tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 185 miles from the center. And of course, as I mentioned, the pressure still way down there at 916 millibars. And the storm surge, very, very bad here in the Turks and Caicos, southeastern and central Bahamas, the northern coast of Cuba, even in the warning area, 5 to 10 feet of storm surge. And that brings me to an interesting point that I want to bring up here. This is the forecast track from the 11 o'clock advisory package, as you see there, and it moves into the southeast Bahamas according to the forecast, and then up and makes this right turn, perhaps over some densely populated areas of southeast Florida, very close to those areas, and then perhaps a landfall up here along the Savannah River area, perhaps Savannah, perhaps extreme southwest South Carolina. But this is day 5, and you can see the error cone at that time indicating all the possible areas that this could end up being. I'm talking about the center, and that's what I want to really focus on for a moment. My 10-year-old daughter kind of helped me think of this tonight. She asked, and I live here in Wilmington, North Carolina, and it's where my office is. She asked, when will it be here? And I started thinking, I was like, well, what do you mean? And she said, when will the hurricane be here? And I said, well, if you mean the center of circulation, or another way to look at it, and I showed her my radar scope app, are you talking about this? I asked her, that right there, the core? Or are you talking about these things way out here, these big rain bands? And she said, yeah, the hurricane itself, you know, the clouds, the wind, and the rain. You know, what are the chances of that hitting? And I said, well, if you're talking about the entire package coming our way, I would say it's almost 100% certainty if it follows this forecast track. And why would I say that when I'm in Wilmington, and clearly the forecast is for it, and I'm doing air quotes here, it, to make landfall near Savannah? Well, because this huge area of hurricane force winds would almost reach up, and those are tropical storm force winds. I have to slow down a little bit here. That's a huge area, assuming it stays the same size. Sometimes it gets elongated like this. There's going to be storm surge up here. There will be rain bands. There's going to be the potential for tornadoes. All of that is part of it, okay? And she made me totally realize that now more than ever. I've talked about that before in my public speaking engagements. But she really, you know, for a 10-year-old to ask such a basic question, you know, what are the chances of it coming here? Well, I would say it's 100% in terms of the effects from Irma. And you need to take that into consideration all over in this region as it passes through the Bahamas and towards Florida and maybe even the southeast. Because if we look at the satellite picture, this really tells the story here. Very well defined. It's, you know, slightly ragged on the southwest side. Some of the landmass here may be disrupting things just a little bit. But once it clears this area, especially Hispaniola, this region through here is just as warm as the water can be this time of year. Very high upper ocean heat content, and that's going to be problematic for this to not weaken, basically. This is going to be very strong as it moves through that region, and maybe getting stronger. once it does so, we'll just have to wait and see. But that right there, folks, is it. That whole giant buzzsaw of destruction and, horrifying winds near the core. And look, I understand that the worst part of it is right here near the center of circulation. Of course I understand that. But a lot of people think that unless this hits them directly, that it's not that big of a deal, and they are sadly mistaken. The storm surge alone could reach a lot of the southeast coast, and we're going to talk about that in the future over the next few days once watches and warnings go up for the southeast coast. In terms of what to expect along the Florida Peninsula, again, because this is such a large area, even a track just offshore could bring severe hurricane conditions to portions of southeast Florida, and those could spread as far inland as Orlando, maybe Gainesville, but more along the lines of gusty winds there. The idea here is that this is a large and dangerous weather system, and it's going to affect tens of millions of people, and that is not news hyperbole like you see on television sometimes. This winter storm is going to affect 40 million people. This is really the real deal here, so please take it seriously. Elsewhere in the tropics, I don't want to ignore what's happening here with Katia, heading towards Mexico as a hurricane. Hurricane watch is in effect as a result, and not too far south here from Tampico, and this area could see certainly hurricane force winds, very heavy rain, and onshore flow storm surge, obviously, and then it moves inland and dies out after dumping a lot of very heavy rain. We haven't forgotten about you, Mexico. At least I haven't. And you got to watch Katia over the next couple of days because it is a hurricane, and any hurricane can be very, very deadly. It just depends on where it hits and how well people are prepared, and the local geography and geology and all sorts of other things. So this is important to track for these people as Irma is for the folks in its path. Then we have Jose. And I want to talk about Jose for a second and something that struck me. You see the forecast track here over the next 5 days ending up somewhere here in the southwest Atlantic basin. If it follows the southern part of the cone of uncertainty, what does that look like to you? Not quite the angle that Irma took, a little bit steeper, but that would be absolutely terrible. So we need to watch very closely. Communications are down through this region for the most part. Amateur radio is going to be a big help in this region, hopefully. But if this starts to come in more to the south, where it could track right over the areas that Irma did, we could be looking at a humanitarian disaster that would cost lots of lives of people that are very exposed right now. So we need to pay close attention to this and be ready to act accordingly, those who can, the various governments, the United States included, that can send aid and get people out of there should Jose come that way. So that's something to keep in mind. I thought I had the computer models pulled up, but I guess not. Let me go grab them from this folder over here. Oh, wait a minute. I know where they are. Sorry. Hold on. Bear with me. Because I did want to show you this. I know I should bookmark stuff, but the way they just tile up like that works for me just as well. So the track guidance. This is what I want to end the major part of the discussion with. It's still very tightly clustered for the first couple of days here. But then there's a little bit more spread on the 0Z guidance overall. And again, just forget these. It's not going to surprise me if this starts to shift more to the north and east with time, putting more of South Carolina here at risk. That's just how I feel. That seems to be what happens more often than not, and it certainly is what happened, generally speaking, with Matthew last year, even though we had that westward shift late that had it coming close to the Florida coast. Just don't focus on the fact, well, it's supposed to make landfall near Savannah, so I'm up here in Georgetown or Charleston, I'm not going to worry about it. That's total, you know what, and you should know better than that. So we need to watch this guidance, the 0Z models tonight, the major global models, we'll see what they show, and we got to start thinking preparedness here in a big way in Florida and up to through Georgia and the Carolinas. I will be heading out, presumably, tomorrow and towards Florida. It all depends on what happens overnight, obviously. And I've talked about this before. I'm going to talk about it again. You know, this is my job. This is not a hobby. This is not something I do to pass the time. I've been in the hurricane tracking and consulting and field research business for 20 years. And nowadays, it's funded mostly by crowdfunding. And part of that is our app, Hurricane Impact. It's 2 words, Hurricane Impact, on the iPhone App Store. And if you get it, it'll amaze you, because we have some great tools that are going to start to be activated here within the app. The live video feeds, the weather stations coming online, and you can get information in this app, and it's just $4. It's $3.99. You know, it's less than the cost of a hamburger at Five Guys, and I like Five Guys, by the way. So I'm serious. You know, this helps to support what I do. It's not my hobby. It's not just a gig. It is my career. And we can do some great things if, you know, 1 million people bought the app. And I'm not kidding about that. You think, well, sure, but I'm dead serious. Imagine what we could do with crowdfunding at an unlimited pace. Wow. Education, research, field work. And in those years where there's no hurricanes, I don't have to worry about paying the bills, because when there are hurricanes, I want to be back, and I want to be able to help you better prepare, and then show you what the impacts are using state-of-the-art technology and being more than just, quote, a hurricane chaser. Never have liked that term, and Hurricane Impact is what that's all about. Also, people have asked me how can they support our efforts elsewhere. The long term is this Patreon right here, where you can become a sustaining patron of my work. And, of course, PayPal. Everybody knows PayPal, and people have been very generous. It's going to put gas in the tank. It's going to put food in our bellies. I'm going to be working with several people on this mission, wherever it ends up. We need your help. There's no way around it. Money is what makes the world go round. And, again, this is my career. This is how, in the old days, it was more like sponsorships and partnerships with big companies. But as the recession hit and the hurricanes dried up, I became, you know, like Mr. Incredible from that movie, The Incredibles. Nobody needed me. But now they do, and I want to make sure I'm around to be able to help in the future. So you want to help make that happen? Jump on board. Collectively, we can make a huge difference. And your outreach to me on social media, the thank yous that I have received, the lives that people have told me that I have directly saved because of some of the work that I have done, means more to me than any amount of a paycheck, quote unquote. Okay? And I really, really mean that. I have a passion for this. I don't know where it came from, but here it is, and I'm here to help you. So if you can help me, it'll help keep me in the game. All right, that being said, and boy, I hate talking about raising money, but if I don't, who will? Tomorrow, Thursday the 7th, the plan as of now is to get in the car, the Chevy Tahoe, and head south towards Florida. That might change. It's going to be very much dependent on the overnight model runs. I will let you know more about that in the morning. Let's just leave it at that. All right? So get a good night's sleep. Don't stay up and wait for the GFS and the European. I've made myself tear away from it, and if I can do it, you can do it. Go to sleep. You're going to need your energy if you live in the area that Irma is headed to. Trust me. I should know. All right? Have a great rest of your night. Again, thanks a million for tuning in. It's just been an honor and a privilege to be able to provide this information, and we're getting ready to do it from the road. And if you've never seen that, you are going to be stunned at what we can do, and you'll be going with us. All right? I'm Mark Sutt of HurricaneTrack.com. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.